DARPA Institute has been working in Armenia since 1992, and we have quite a few activities currently ongoing. One of them, actually three of them are in the Armenia National Lab. One is in the Polytechnic Institute and the University of Beregan, or the Yerevan State University, and also educational program where we have 19 schools in various regions of Armenia involved. In the Polytechnic University, we have established a center of excellence for circuit design, where they will be teaching cadence software. That actually courses have already started, and then eventually we are hoping that it will lead to advanced circuit design where they can also do research. This hopefully will attract large companies like NVIDIA and AMD and others, because now there will be people who will be able to perform general circuit design for the companies. And then we have the programs in the Alkhanya National Lab. One of them is a research, actually all three of them are research programs, but one of them is on solar cells, where we are now looking at a new approach to solar cells, which is being directed by Professor Arap Karyan in the UC Irvine. And it has, so far, the results have shown that the efficiency of solar cells have increased up to almost 60%, which is actually a very highly successful program according to experts. And now we're trying to see how we can develop prototypes and then apply it in manufacturing. Hopefully we'll be able to work on that. We also have a program on radio frequency photomultiplier tube, which is essentially a photon counting device that has applications apparently in medical diagnostics and many other areas. And now we're trying to develop a prototype on that one, which we will try to then show to companies that are interested in diagnostics, as well as in microscopes and other advanced devices. We also have another program called the Detection Lab, which essentially is working on nuclear detectors. And they already have programs with Jefferson Lab in the US and also in Japan. And they're quite advanced, and their results are very, very highly appreciated. And then in the Yerevan State University, we have the research portion of the solar cell ongoing. They're trying to theoretically prove that what we have achieved is actually what we should expect. And our educational program is a STEM education in 19 schools. This is an extracurricular activity, and we have special teachers that are trained to teach specially designed courses, and we provide the students with science kits where they actually perform projects on these kits and then present these projects to the to judges as well as to the public. And this is the third year we are trying to accomplish this, and we have expanded from 7 schools to 19 schools this year. And of course, each of the schools will cost us around $6,000, and we're open to getting donations to help us achieve more. Again, thank you for joining us, and right now, I'd like to introduce our moderator, who is Dr. Raif Kabayan. Dr. Kabayan is a scientist at the Jefferson Lab.
Lawrence Livermore. Lawrence Livermore Lab, sorry.
Beg your pardon? He's a visiting scientist in the Lawrence Livermore Lab. I'm sorry. He joined the lab in 1997, and also he joined the Joint Chief of Staff in the Pentagon, where he managed a program to support operational planning. Harai received the Joint Meritorious Civilian Service Award from the Office of the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staffs in 2007, and also in 2019. Dr. Kabayan returned to the Lawrence Livermore Lab in 2019. He received his doctorate from the University of Illinois in Urbana, and he taught mathematical physics for 4 years in New York University's Quran Institute of the Mathematical Sciences, and also in McGill University. So, Harai, the floor is yours.
Well, Harop, thank you very much for that introduction. I just want to let all the participants know that the session is going to be recorded, and then the recording is going to be available. So it will also be pretty much sent all over the map. So a lot of folks can listen to it if they're not available at this time. So the way I'm going to do this, we're going to go through each panelist, and I'm going to give them 10 minutes to respond. I'll read the question I have for them. The questions are based on the articles they wrote. And for the audience, please post your questions in the chat box. I'll get to them at the end. And that's how we're gonna do the Q&A. The other thing is, I don't plan to read the bios. The bios are available. If I start reading them, we're gonna spend the rest of the day doing that. But we have splendid panelists, great background, and so please, if you haven't already read them, please do. They're in the announcement. So, all right. With that, let me get going in here. I'm gonna start off with Berj Ayvazian and Artak Sahakian. And Berj, you have your article is entitled "The Role of AI in Armenia's Economic Transformation." So you focus on AI, and in it you state Armenia is positioning itself to become a leader in the future of generative AI and in big data analytics, manufacturing, defense, and economics. And its approach to AI development focuses on human-centric applications that solve real-world problems. That's the main point you make in your article. But then you go on, you will also highlight trends that, unless they are reversed, they could disrupt the sustainability and future growth potential of the Armenia ICT sector. Okay, Berj, please take 10 minutes and address these questions, and the platform over to you.
Thank you. Hopefully everyone can hear me clearly. I'm sorry my camera is not working, but I've shared my screen. Hopefully you can see it. Can you confirm, Harai?
Yes, I can see it very well.
That's great. And by the way, I'm going to be working with Artak Sahakian, who is my tech blogger, and did a very good job taking a presentation I made in Armenia this summer and turning it into an article that we published with ARPA Institute. So let me start by saying that we believe that in the heart of the Caucasus, a small nation named Armenia is making big waves in the world of artificial intelligence. Even though it's a small country with just 3 million people, Armenia is becoming a global leader in AI. And it's not just a dream. It's a rapidly unfolding reality. And we are standing at the brink of an AI-driven future, and Armenia stands to gain quite a bit by relying on AI to grow the IT sector, as we have continued to build the tech sector in Armenia for the last 20 years. So as you probably know, AI is a huge market and a very rapidly growing market around the world. Most of the growth is coming from very large companies, both using AI and building the infrastructure to support AI. And many of them are opening operations in Armenia, including NVIDIA, which has a development shop in Armenia. And Armenian startups are starting to make a dent in the market. And in fact, in my article, we identify several Armenian startups that are using AI to do innovation in areas like robotics, life sciences, biotech, voice and image processing, business, and marketing. And you can see some of the names coming up on the screen. They should be familiar names to you by now. And PixArt, as an example, is incubating other AI startups under its umbrella. And companies like Hercules are innovating AI and raising money, and others are doing excellent work to build an AI future for Armenia. So with that, let's continue. I want to answer the question. We believe that Armenia's role in the AI future is not just a small matter, it's actually a transformative opportunity that will allow Armenia to emerge as a leader on the world stage, not just in the region, not just in a small area, but in fact, in the whole AI market. And in fact, the World Bank recognized this in a recent report and showed that Armenia is already becoming a leader in this area. But we have a number of programs in addition to the one ARPA is identified, where we're investing in the next generation of AI. And Tumo Center, UATE, FAST, and others are incubating new AI talent to make Armenia a leader. But we need to use this to make AI development in Armenia a brand. We already raised over 200 million last year in 24 VC startups in the AI sector, but we will continue to do that. And we have new investment companies that are working in this area. We also built a supercomputer center that will name Charles Aznavour, that opened in Engineering City, and it will give us a new platform to grow our AI infrastructure. You also know that we had WCIT in Armenia this year, and as a result, we attracted global talent to the Armenian market to see how we're leading in AI. And I attended and spoke several times there, and what we talked a lot about is how Armenia can emerge as a global leader and make AI an Armenian brand. The way we can do it is to differentiate the type of AI we're developing, where in fact, our type of AI is already built on pre-verified, pre-validated information, not just scraping the internet, but having an access to data that's very powerful, very truthful, and is very ethical. And in fact, the theme of WCIT was AI beyond limits within ethics. And we demonstrated Armenia has a leadership role to play, and we will continue to do that. Hopefully that addressed the first question. The second question is more challenging. We do have some trends that could disrupt the stability and future growth of the Armenian ICT sector. Some are geopolitical, geoeconomic uncertainties about investment. And in fact, if we fail to retain the high-skilled IT professionals and innovative entrepreneurs, we will lose the advantage we've already gained in this sector. And we are already beginning to see that the slowdown in the talent pool and the investment could be an issue, and we need to make sure it's not going to disrupt the growth trend in the ICT sector. So that's why we're investing in a new generation of talent and trying to attract new investors and new vehicles for investment in IT companies. So hopefully that addresses the question. If anybody has any more questions, I just returned from Armenia myself, and I'm happy to answer them. Is that good enough, Harai?
Yes, it is, Berj. Thank you very much. So let me repeat to all the participants. Please post your questions in the chat box. We're going to get to them at the end. So we're going to continue on. And for those of you who dialed in a little late, I don't plan to read the bios, but the bios are available in the announcement. So please do. And then if you have any questions to the panelists, please reach out to them directly. If you don't have their emails, come to me or go to Hago and we will provide you their emails. So again, Berj, thank you very much for these comments. So now we're going to continue on, and next panelist is Armen Danielian. And Armen, I have a couple of questions for you to address. So let me read them here. And so in your article, which is entitled Technologies for Energy Security of Armenia, you state energy security is one of the central questions with regards to Armenia's economic development, and you observe that there isn't any single solution that can provide such high energy security. And then you go on, you also state that the primary approach to increasing energy security is through integration of local energy production technologies, and you list several categories. So, Armen, if you can take 10 minutes and walk the participants through these two key points. Over to you, Armen.
Yes, thank you. I also wanted to mention on the screen, it is still showing from the previous presentation, so just not to have people confused. Yeah, thanks. Thank you for the question. Yeah, so I'll briefly answer to your questions. Again, the participants are welcome to read the article. And then for even more extensive discussion, I am a co-author of Armenia's Energy Independence Roadmap, which we have completed for Foundation for Armenian Science and Technology. That is available on FAST's website. So you can go there. There is even a much larger 300+ page report. To answer your questions, first of all, in terms of Armenia's energy security being critical for economic development, well, I was born in 1994, but I think most people here are older than me. And so you must remember much better than me, obviously, what it was like in the early 90s during the energy blockade. And that was my point, really, that energy is one of those basic needs nowadays for economy. Electrical energy fuels are used in pretty much any aspect of the economy. Of course, Armenia, in its global competition, will have to specialize in some specific fields. Currently, it appears to be IT, education, perhaps tourism, agriculture. So in other spheres of economy, mostly each country specializes. But energy is vital for any country's economy because it is so integrated in all kinds of goods and services that we produce. And in that regard, Armenia is in a relatively fragile situation. We don't have domestic oil and gas reserves. We don't have very good relationships with our neighbors. And our local renewable energy capacities, though abundant in their absolute terms, particularly solar and to some extent wind, they are not as easy to integrate as, for example, some other countries have. And that moves me to the second point, that there is no one solution. If we were a country like Iceland, let's say, with a population of 300,000 and vast amount of geothermal hydropower reserves, and same area approximately as Armenia, then we will not have any issues. Countries such as Switzerland, Norway, even Georgia have abundant hydropower reserves, which are pretty much almost enough, or in some cases completely enough to provide electricity. And of course, other countries have, fossil fuel-rich countries have a lot of domestic fossil fuels. I guess Norway, again, will be a great example. They have a lot of hydropower for electricity generation, and they have vast oil and gas reserves. In our case, we don't have any one energy source that we could rely on to such an extent. And our approach would lie in developing the local energy sources. Of course, primarily that will be the idea. If you want to develop energy security, you want to not rely as much on the others. There are some caveats, of course. One is that we can't immediately move out of natural gas. So natural gas would still be an important aspect of our energy system for the next decade or two. The other is that if we're developing local sources such as wind and solar, those are variable sources of electricity. Their generation changes and does not always coincide with the demand. And there it is important to develop interconnectors with neighboring countries, which is what Europe has done, which is what US has done, so that we're able to trade, to export when we have too much solar and wind electricity and to import when we have too little. But with regards to the general question, again, development of local sources, wind, solar, hydropower. There is some potential for geothermal. There is currently a study, in fact, at AUA looking in biogas. There is nuclear energy, which recently Prime Minister announced that we're going for small modular reactors out of concerns for safety primarily, because those kinds of reactors tend to be safer than the large conventional ones. But again, none of these sources are able to provide us with complete solution. Nuclear power is very expensive and it has limited flexibility and variability in being able to adjust to changing demand. So while it's great for baseload supply, it is not very good for adjusting to the remaining fluctuations in demand. And we also have to take into account its cost. Hydropower in Armenia we have some amount, but not as much as countries like Georgia and Norway, and it depends very much on precipitation. So there is seasonal variation, and again, it's not fully reliable, and the capacity is not that big. Geothermal has relatively limited capacity. About 150 megawatts is the upper number that I've seen. Solar and wind, of course, the greatest issue there is variability and intermittency, not always available, constantly changing, causing concerns for grid management, especially in the presence of limited interconnections and very expensive storage technologies globally. Biogas potential is still being looked into. It could replace significant amount of natural gas, but the point is that we have to combine different kinds of solutions together and to find the optimal balance in the energy systems. It appears for Armenia, at least on the face of it, that electrification of transport and heating is the most straightforward way to decarbonize them. So we're moving predominantly towards electrification, although biogas in the near term and perhaps hydrogen more in the long term can change that dynamic. But that would be my summary, I guess, for now.
Okay, Armen, thank you very much. Let me remind those who are following the panel discussion that the session is being recorded and it's going to be made available to everybody. So you will have it. You can send it to other friends, people you know who would be interested in the topic. And also let me remind everyone that you can please post your questions in the chat box. We'll get to them at the very end. So keep thinking about the questions you have and please post them. So our next participant is Arsen Arakelian. Again, I'm not going to read the bios. The bios are available, so that will take too much time. And Arsen, in your article entitled Biosecurity and Public Health Threats, so you focus on biosecurity and public health threats, you state Armenia can build a more resilient health system capable of effectively managing future public health emergencies and biological threats. So that's a key point you make in your article. But then you go on and you note, however, that Armenia hasn't yet learned lessons from the pandemic. No government level programs have been initiated so far to increase preparedness for future threats. So Arsen, I appreciate if you expand and explain to the participants these two key points you make in your article. Over to you, Arsen.
Yeah. Hi, thank you. Thanks very much for inviting me to this panel discussion. Yeah, I'm a molecular biologist, so I try to present my general thoughts in the article based on our not very like long time ago experience and exposure to COVID pandemic. Actually, the history of pandemic, including the COVID, shows that as there is a saying that history teaches us that we didn't learn from history. So, of course, COVID-19 wasn't the first pandemic worldwide and wasn't and will not be the last one. So the general preparedness to such kind of threats, uh, either artificial or natural, are essential for every country, including Armenia. So the pandemic itself shows the critical gaps in our country in the preparedness to such events, and also exposes the problems that should be addressed in future to be more to be able to more efficient encounter such disasters and to be able to efficiently launch the healthcare programs to prevent losses, that massive health people losses that we experienced in Armenia as well as worldwide. So I stated, I was just wrote down some lessons that we should learn from the pandemic and what actions could Armenia implement to detain them in future. So the first of all, uh, the COVID pandemic exposed the deficiency of logistic chains and dependency of Armenia from external sources for diagnostics, vaccines, therapeutics, as well as access to the immediate research results on viral and biological agents that can cause pandemics. So the way to the action that this lesson should drive is that we should prioritize our development of research facilities, preclinical and manufacturing infrastructure to be capable to produce diagnostics, vaccines, and treatments locally. Of course, we should understand that it's not possible to be self-sufficient in every field or every product we need to fight pandemics. But again, we should be able to have at least some essential infrastructure that would help us to sustain for as long as it's possible before logistic chains are recovered back. The second lesson was that rapid identification and tracking of the COVID virus variants played a critical role in managing pandemic. So as a joke, I usually ask audience, just imagine what would happen if pandemic have been started in Armenia. So we would never know about that this is the new virus, what it affects, and how fast it can spread because we didn't have a critical infrastructure for genomic surveillance in Armenia. Of course, situation now is a bit better. We started to build that, but this should be also an essential tool and essential infrastructure that we need to have in place and to integrate it into the national healthcare framework to allow for faster detection of emerging pathogens and better management of outbreaks. The next lesson, which is important, is that, again, disruption of global supply shows that we have to have not only research and development infrastructure, but also we should have strategic stockpile of medical supplies, drugs, ventilators, and other, so whatever is needed to fight against emerging pathogens. And this is absolutely absent in Armenia, and but it's essential to have and to keep it updated. Another problem we also faced during the pandemic is very ignorant and critical attitude of general public towards measures to control the outbreak. Especially, I'm talking about vaccination, and anti-vaccine movement had like emerged and spread towards entire the globe, including Armenia. And this indicates about like very non-efficient or and non like intense efforts to educate general public in these fields, which and also it indicates the problem with efficient fighting with misinformation and it's a fighting and not being able to explain the simple scientific facts to the audience or population within the country. Another important issue that is that we haven't have any kind of emergency response plan, and we waited until WHO, NCDC, and other international and agencies offered us with their solutions and their guidelines how to combat the pandemic. This is also an unacceptable behavior, and we should have these kind of plans in advance. And I would also like suggested that we need to have the coordination among different government agencies, healthcare providers, and international partners to have everything in place to be ready to respond to biological threats as soon as they emerge. Not less important issue was with a shortage of qualified personnel that were able to be engaged in the any public measures or healthcare measures related to COVID pandemic, starting from clinical lab specialists that do diagnostics of COVID, ending up with the physicians and clinicians and nurses that are educated enough to provide the maximally efficient and also safe care in any safe manner care to the patients. And with this, we need to significantly develop and expand our educational programs that train specialists in these fields. And this would include professional disciplines related to biomedical sciences such as molecular biology, genomics, infectious disease research, public health policy, epidemiology, biotech, and many others. And also we need to implement programs that would would promote professional development of people involved in these areas, so that Armenia can enhance its capacity to respond efficiently in future to this kind of emergencies. Pandemic also showed that we basically lack a biotech sector that could efficiently repurpose its activities towards fighting biological threats. This was so obvious that government in 2023 actually started a new 5-year development program for pharmaceutical industry. But again, if you look at this document, you would see that the actions and their narratives coming from very different purpose than and didn't consider the biological threats as a source of potential problems within country. It mostly addresses the way how Armenian pharmaceutical industry could increase their I don't know, economic efficiency and how it can more contribute to the development of country's economy. Regarding the second question, why I stated that actually we didn't learn lessons after pandemic is that even though pandemic is not over and we still need to learn how to live with this virus that surrounding us, the government, we don't see any governmental efforts to create or develop a strategy that would prevent Armenia or place Armenia in better position to mitigate the risk of other coming biological emergencies and threats. Though we constantly hear about new emerging viral and bacterial diseases, we constantly hear and track new emerging infectious infections like West Nile virus, like monkeypox, like measles, and these are the threats that are even more dangerous than COVID. But the actions that should have been taken are not there, and whatever is currently happening in Armenia, it comes from in the way of bottom-up approach. So again, scientists, professionals, and people who somehow contributed during the COVID pandemics, they try to persuade the government that we need such kind of strategies and we need such infrastructures that would help us to prevent the situations or that we already experienced. And in this sense, again, this white paper maybe again tries to call for action to governmental agencies to create a biosafety level 3 national labs that could do research on viral strains, to catalog circulating viral threats in Armenia, to develop new facilities for production and developing diagnostic test systems, and create infrastructures for preclinical and clinical research in Armenia so that we are able to developments at scientific institutions, especially related to different therapies, could be evaluated, assessed, and become a source for creating new therapies and new drugs to fight against emerging biological threats. Basically, that's was the main idea of the chapter I wrote. I hope that at some point these lessons will be learned and Armenia will stay in better position for next time. And the other sad part of this is that I'm more than sure that the next time will also come. Thank you.
Well, Arsen, thank you very much. Again, let me remind everybody this is being recorded, and please post your questions in the chat box. There's only one so far. We need a few more. And also for the panelists, as you listen to each other, if you have any questions at the end, we're gonna have like 10 minutes for you to do some final, give your final thoughts, and also, raise some issues with the other panelists that would be of interest. So our last panelist today is Satanik Manastaganyan. And Satanik, I want to thank you very much we had a gap in our in the topics, and it was so kind of you to step in at the last minute and join the panel discussion. And some of the points that you have indicated an interest in addressing, I'm going to read them quickly, and I'm going to turn the thing over to you to address them. So the first point is technologically driven sustainable development serves as a vital pillar for Armenia's national security and sovereignty. So that's point number one. Point number two, breakthrough advancements can achieve lasting sustainability through innovative technologies and synergy between culture and technology. That's second point. And your third point, the virtualization of culture and education, along with the decentralized nature of cyberspace, empowers empowers Armenians worldwide to contribute to the development of the state. However, this also introduces new security challenges requiring a thorough re-examination of existing norms and practices. So Satanik, over to you. Please expand these topics to our viewers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kabayan. Thank you for this opportunity to share some of the very key concepts in our research group that serves into the development of the Armenia's national security and sovereignty. As a start, I think I should mention the past research areas that we were addressing, and during my presentation or talk, I will address the technology used for the development of the country or security systems, the education technology, the need and role of the technology in education, the role of the cyberspace, and also the challenges in cyberspace. As a start, I would like to mention two aspects of the current state of the country that our group accepts as based on a common sense and based on our analysis also. We all know that Armenia is in a very competitive and strategic place, both geographically and geopolitically, and it is constantly facing very various different existential threats. And in order to talk about the possible strategic solutions for the security and the sovereignty of the country, we first need to accept that the development phase has not started yet. At least our group thinks so, or based on our analysis. The country did not exit the post-Soviet era, and it is still in the decline process after a number of losses and destructing events. Many of the critical domains in the country are still under the inertia of the past. We think that the development of the country should be based on a very revolutionary paradigm shifts and transformation in all critical domains of the country. As a first step, our group has been working on defining a clear concept and a framework based on democratic rules and sovereignty principles. The major focus of our group is on security and development. We think that these are the two fundamental components for any state. As a strategic framework for security component, 3 years ago, the members of Vokezen Pan-Armenian platform started developing Armenia's comprehensive defense and security system based on other countries' experiences like Finland, Estonia, Sweden, Norway, etc. Among our findings, it's worth mentioning or highlighting 3 key points relevant to today's discussion. First one is comprehensive defense and security system in any country, but by its design is a bidirectional collaborative process based on a whole of society approach. It requires 5% of public resources to collaborate with 95% of private or societal resources to respond to various threats. Second is comprehensive defense and security system is built on 2 principles, resilience and resistance. Maintaining the state's or country's resilience is a continuous and repetitive process, which leads to resistance of a state against any existential threats, including kinetic wars, hybrid wars, man-made or natural disasters, etc. And the third very important point that is very relevant to today's discussion is culture and education are horizontal and play a fundamental role in all pillars of the comprehensive defense and security systems. It's worth mentioning also that there is no single system in the world that can be adopted without adaptation to the cultural and geographical characteristics of the state and of the nation. And these are the fundamental principles that we are using to design the Armenia's comprehensive defense and security system in the framework of Vokezen. Among the different pillars like military, critical infrastructure, sustainable economy, governance, etc., in comprehensive defense and security system, cyber and digital security form a separate pillar because of multiple factors, and the most important factors are the following. First, today, technology and digitization are part of all domains of the state development, including critical infrastructure, governance, educational systems, public healthcare, etc. Second aspect is non-kinetic hybrid warfare is continuously run in different digital environments, thus making the cyberspace the fifth security domain after land, water, air, and space. Combining these factors and findings with the rich technological heritage that we have in the country, and also considering the very strict time restrictions we think that Armenia's national security and sovereignty can be ensured with a technologically driven and sustainable breakthrough development. And let me elaborate on this a little. We can use innovative technologies to speed up the development process in different domains in the country and also develop more robust security systems. But for the sustainability factor of this is we have to very much rely on the cultural qualities and characteristics of the nation, including education, language, religion, etc. Educational system, on the other hand, plays the biggest role and is the biggest driving force for the sustainable development and should be designed in synergy with the culture, and its quality should be measured with the cultural values. We should also make sure that the sustainable quality education is equally available in all regions of the country. To achieve this, we can heavily rely on digitization and the distributed nature of cyberspace. Today, any student in the most distant village of the country can have access to the best educational material worldwide. The best specialists, educators, researchers, scientists in the world can transfer their knowledge to anyone in the world. But speaking about the synergy between culture again, all of this can and will materialize and transform into a solution only if the student or researcher is solving a real problem available around them for school students in their school, in their village or city, in their region or in the country. This is why we think that every student in the country, starting from the middle school, should have access to technology. They should start targeting small problems around them and find technology-based solutions to solve the problems, implement, test, deliver solutions, and through that, learn thinking systematically. This way, we think that with time and experience, everyone in the country or future scientists in the country will be able to acquire the world's best knowledge and apply it to solve more complex and more critical problems. In the inside the Vokezen community, there are some foundational processes in educational systems, educational fields that are available in the country now. For example, we have more than 600 Armat engineering laboratories in all regions of Armenia, where school kids learn using basic technology to solve problems that exist in their schools, in their villages, etc. They collaborate with each other because almost all villages in the country are connected through internet. Second component of our educational system is Real School, a specialized college. And it has a very unique nature, combining project-based education with intensively internship programs with industry partners that are ideally located in the same building, forming a organic technopark. Real School is currently operating in 5 major cities in Armenia, including Ijevan, Vanadzor, Gyumri, Goris, and Yerevan, of course, and we have plans to expand in different regions also. The third component is Instigate Scientific Research Center, which in collaboration with different universities builds an ecosystem for employed citizens to be engaged in higher education and research, both as educators, students, and researchers, and together solve complex problems. In the community part of the development of the country, many technological companies are more often opening branches in the regions, which is helping to develop the educational system, technological educational system in the regions also, because the students can see the future, they can see the continuation of their profession and employment life. Unions and there have less reasons to move from the region to the capital. Unions of different domain organizations and companies of specialists combine their efforts and collaboratively run interesting workshops, seminars, trainings in the regions, both online and offline formats. There are also various projects and initiatives in Yerevan and in the region started by diaspora Armenians. Government is also running pilot projects in some regions to promote project-based learning in STEM education in high schools. And all of this can be made possible because of the cyberspace and technological use. It's a powerful tool. It empowers not only Armenians in the country, but also worldwide to contribute to the sustainable development of the state. But we should also not forget that cyberspace is also a critical domain, as mentioned above, and maintaining the security of it is not easy. Digitization of educational system and especially the other critical infrastructures introduce new cybersecurity challenges, and not only cybersecurity, but also information security challenges. And this requires a thorough re-examination of existing technological and also ethical norms and practices. For this, there are initiatives in the community. Also, years ago, we founded ARMSEC Foundation, and we are running annual ARMSEC conferences addressing different cybersecurity threats, issues worldwide, and we are focusing on the existing threats in Armenia, in the country also. We have monthly meetups in Yerevan under the umbrella of OVASP Yerevan chapter. And there are some collaborative initiatives that we started in the region together with American University of Armenia, Yerevan State University, Yerevan branch, Instigate Scientific Research Center, and ARMSEC Foundation. We launched a pilot security awareness raising and capacity building hub, situational awareness center. And we are engaging students from different research organizations and from the university, from schools, to work together to find solutions to address this cyber critical issues in the country. Thank you.
So here I'm muting myself. Satanik, thank you very much. Very comprehensive. Appreciate it very much. So let me remind everybody that it's being recorded. All right. So even the Q&A session is going to be recorded. So be mindful of that. And I want to remind everyone that the panel next week is on Saturday again, same time, and then it will focus on whoops. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Somebody in AI decided to update my whatever. So that would be same time, and the focus will be on operational issues for next week. And we have several people who are very cognizant about those issues. We're going to be addressing those issues. So please continue posting your questions, please. And we have from Garo. Let me start off. We have two. We have one from Garo. So let me start off with Garo. Garo is asking Dr. Ayvazyan, why is it difficult to retain IT professionals in Armenia?
Rado, thank you for your question. First of all, we have a lot of our IT professionals. It's one of the fastest growing areas of employment in Armenia. However, very quickly, our professionals realize that companies are using talent in Armenia because they can source them for half the salary or compensation if they were to hire in the United States or Europe, Western Europe. Armenia is competitive with India, but generally a bit more innovative and less of a commodity. But in order for us to retain our talent pool, we have to continue to train them. We have to challenge them and compensate them to be more attracted to jobs based in Armenia and not leave the country. On the other hand, we also want them to stay in the talent pool, even if they leave and go live somewhere else. So it turns out that a good part were in Russia. A lot came home during the economic boycott, and now we have a new talent pool of repatriated citizens who have come back to Armenia. Artak, do you have anything to add to this question?
I completely agree with you. Just I will add that, as you know, Armenian dram became stronger last year. So in that sense, from salary perspective, it can be said that it became less competitive. So it also could have some impact on this factor.
Very good, thank you. Okay, if there's any more questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, so well, thank you. So let's go on. Agaro has another question. Agaro, you may want to step in if you have something verbally you want to say. But the second question you have for Dr. Arakelian is there an ongoing collaboration partnership with Moderna to face future pandemics more efficiently? And I see Dr. Arsen has replied to you in writing. But Arsen, if you can expand on your response, we'd appreciate it. Over to you,
Yeah,
Arsen.
thanks, Gal, for the question. Unfortunately, the answer is no. And the answer will be no in upcoming future unless very specific steps will be implemented by the government. First of all, as I mentioned, still the pandemic didn't teach us that we need to build up our biotech infrastructure, and we should invest into biotech infrastructure. And in this sense, Moderna could not come to Armenia unless we have appropriate infrastructure, appropriately trained specialists, appropriately developed research institutions that could be useful and could be able to partner with Moderna. The other problem is that talking to companies like Moderna, like Pfizer, like AstraZeneca should be done not on the individual level, but on the level of government, on the level of government. So you may know very well that, for example, the company got almost $1 billion as a grant from US and National Institutes of Health to develop the vaccine. So the company should be interested in setting R&D centers or moving their production in a place, and this place should be favor their development and their business. In this sense, Armenia is not at the moment such place. But I would really love to see the efforts from our governmental agencies to talk to Moderna, but not on the level that nobody's there, he is Armenian, he should help Armenia for something, but as a potential investment into something which can be a driver of biotech, not only in the country, but region and worldwide.
Well, thank you. Garo, are you satisfied with the responses? Do you wanna go public and maybe ask for further clarifications? Are you okay? Okay. Well, I'm not hearing back. So we have a question from Huri Elezian, and Huri is asking this question to Armen Danielian. Is geothermal energy already being implanted or not yet?
Not that I know. There have been some studies done by Armenian Geological Institute in collaboration with some US institutes. Again, the number that I've seen and have heard on some meetings is 100 to 150 megawatts, up to that extent. But aside from that, I guess you could say geothermal energy is used for touristic purposes in Jermuk, but not for electricity generation, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you, Armin. Huri, are you okay with the response? Okay, silence means yes. Okay, Berj has to leave. Before Berj leaves, any final questions to Berj from the audience or the other panelists? He has to go because I know there's something going on. Berj, you can tell everybody you're busy. There's an activity you're supporting, Berj. So you have to leave. So any final questions to Berj before he leaves us? The panelists, do you have anything for him? Other panelists? Okay, Berj, you're off the hook. You can go.
Any final questions for me can be answered by Artak, right, Artak?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you, Berj.
Go back and finish our church bazaar. See you
Oh,
later.
Yeah, it's the bazaar you're supporting. You're doing wonderful work. Great. Okay, so now let's. I don't have any more questions in the chat box. So now let's open it up for. First, we go through. If you have questions to each other, will be phenomenal. That'd be a good thing to do. And then. Okay, Huri seems to be satisfied with the response. So if you don't mind, ask each other any questions, and then you may want to make some final remarks on the topic before we end the session. And again, before everybody leaves, let me remind you, I'm repeating myself, sorry, but the next panel next week is operational and security issues, very different topic, and that will take place on Saturday, and it will be again at 10 o'clock. So, and you should have that in your announcements. Okay. All right. So first, panelists, do you have before you do your final closing remarks, do you have any questions to each other that you want to ask? Feel free to do so. Satanik, you're smiling. I know you have questions.
I think my question to Artak, Arsen and Armen would be, are there any security challenges in the domains in public health or pandemic or energy development, etc., that you would like to be addressed by the community of specialists in the events that community is running? That would be a very nice and collaborative way to address the issues, because that's one of the most fundamental approaches in the comprehensive defense and security systems, the specialists community, the unions of different domains together have to find solutions and help the government to address their challenging problems. This sounded like a closing remark, Dr. Gabayan, but it was also a question to Arsen and Armin.
Okay,
Yeah, if I
Arsen.
may.
Yeah.
So thanks for the question. Actually, that's very interesting point. So I would say that community can help to implement or widen the surveillance network, at least for biosecurity threats. If we establish connections between a community and specialists to be notified ASAP of anything which can be counted as a potential biological threat, that would increase the speed of early detection and, of course, early reaction. But this will come with costs. So community should be well educated to be able to some critically evaluate and assess the level of threat, and not to just overwhelm the system with information that are not reliable or is simply wrong. So, but this could be a very, very interesting point to discuss and to think about.
Okay, let's discuss.
Any Satanik, any more? Anything else you wanna? Other issues you wanna raise?
I wanted to ask community, you meant Armenian community or APRA community, or which community was it?
Community of cybersecurity and information security specialists, Armin, I meant. And as I mentioned already, that community is Armenians worldwide in Armenia, and diaspora Armenians included. It's a community of specialists.
Yeah, for community of that specialists, one thing that will be very important for Armenia, given that it has digitization strategy for the grid, and also electricity trading on spot markets and so on. And there it can be vulnerable to attacks from hackers, and that could really disrupt the electricity system. So when I was doing research for the FAST Foundation, for example, one of the things I found out in Israel, they have a separate center specifically for grid cybersecurity, where they have some specialists, for example, that tried to hack the system, and based on that, they improved its defenses. I think that will be a priority for Armenia's energy sector. So an overview of what are the cybersecurity threats to a digitized grid, basically. Hacking the smart meters, or hacking or disrupting the electricity market rate, all of that, because you constantly need to keep the grid in balance, the electricity. So such things, they may pose a risk of even causing outages or a blackout. Yeah, I think that will be the #1 issue there.
It's very interesting. I think we will, if you don't mind, I will contact you and let's collaborate in the cybersecurity platforms.
Yeah.
I have a question to Artak, maybe, if Artak can address all questions that we also could ask Pert. So my question is, this is like, for many years we have this problem with the computer sciences and relevant fields, when we have like considerable workforce working at the companies, but research and people who like continue to like move to the research part or doing research after graduation is very low, which significantly impedes the potential of contributing to the like research and development of these fields. So my question is whether this also applies to AI, and are there any specific educational programs in AI taught at universities?
Thank you for the question. Actually, I would say that we can see quite good developments coming from tech companies, especially international ones. We have here Philip Morris Science Research and Development Center established in Armenia, and they are mainly concentrated in research activities. But besides research activities, they also actively uh, finance different research projects and give scholarships to universities for doing research and implementing projects designed for them. So it's quite good collaboration with education and private sector. Similar activities we can see also from Boston Gene and also from CRISP company. So they also implement projects in Yerevan State University, and also FAST Foundation has AI generation programs, though it's maybe not so research, but for teaching AI in Armenian schools. So what I want to say, we can see this trend of not coming from so much government, but rather from private sector, that they need such researches, they need such talent, and they finance. Especially PMI Science Research and Development has financed a lot of money, millions of dollars in Armenian research capacity building. And this trend, what I see is quite good example that gives a hope that it will be more and more in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments or closing remarks from the panelists? I don't see any other questions coming in the chat box. So any final comments before we close the session? Anything?
I would like to add a final comment. So actually, what I also see in Armenian tech sector is that we are having we have two technological unions, and they are quite especially Union of Advanced Technology Enterprises that has organized Digitech and WCIT, and the number of members are increasing, and this gives them additional bargaining power to collaborate with government, to lobby, etc., different legislation reforms and changes for development of the sector. So what I would like to also mention, that it's very important that companies and also initiatives join their efforts in different such unions and NGOs and communities, and because that makes stronger and it gives results. So it's very important that we unite our efforts, because I can see a lot of efforts, initiatives are being taken separately sometimes. And if those efforts are united, the impact, I guess, will be much bigger rather than doing it separately. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Let me see here. Satanik, any final closing remarks from you? Are you okay?
I already gave my remark, probably. Let's remember that our nation's security and sovereignty is a whole of society approach, and whole of society includes, it's a national thing, and let's collaborate to build the state. Yeah.
Great closing comments. Wonderful. Thank you, Satanik. Anything else? Okay, so this has been recorded. Hagop will be sending it to you and to the thousands and thousands of emails he's got. So everybody will be able to access this from wherever they are in the world. And again, next week, same time, but the topic is completely different. It's national security operational issues, security issues. And so I want to thank you all for for first providing the articles, participating, and making yourselves available. Thank you very much. And I hope anything you want to close it.
Well, thank you, Ryder, and thank you to the panelists. It was a very exciting and interesting panel. And I think we learned some new information, and also maybe this hopefully will create some cooperation as Satanik suggested. Thank you, and hopefully we'll see you next week. You will receive the emails this coming days. Thank you very much, and goodbye.